fuck? That was interesting. Well, I guess I'll start here. Good day, YouTube. MotoMaster X5 here. Today I was going to talk about what I really think about WRXs, because if you watched one of my previous videos where I talked about why I got rid of my WRX and bought a Mazda 3, you might think that I don't like WRXs or that I have something against them, which really isn't the case. They're great cars. I really love them. And in the right circumstances, I would definitely own another one at some point. But yeah, I was going to talk about that, just clear the air. I really have nothing against Subarus or WRXs or STIs or any Subarus, really. And I apologize for the camera angle, too. I realize you can't really see my face. So, got a new camera mount, and I don't really have any way to adjust it very much right now. And I don't really have time to sit around and screw around with it. So for now, it's going to have to do. So I'll try to fix that for the next video, but for now we'll have to live with it this way. But anyways, getting back to my point, this guy next to me is pissing me off because I have to get over there and he's fucking D-blocking me. But getting back to my point, I really have nothing against WRXs. I mean, they're great cars. They're relatively fast. Pretty much any model year is pretty quick. The newer ones are really fast, for the price anyway, because they're relatively cheap as well compared to any other sports car in the price range. Up until recently, now you have the Ford Focus ST and the Fiesta ST, and the GTI is okay, but it really doesn't compete all that well because it's front wheel drive and it's down on power by a decent amount. But for the price, they're quick cars. They're a lot of fun. They handle well. I mean, I've heard them as being called the poor man's Porsche, and that's probably pretty accurate. I mean, they really do. They really are very good performance cars for the money. Yeah, they're fast, they're cheap, they can be reliable. I'm going to stress that they're reliable cars inherently, I think. But I think the problem comes from the fact that they are cheap performance cars, and they're like the perfect hooligans car. And that, I mean, like, people who buy it, they're not going to usually buy a car like that just to, you know, cruise around or just commute or whatever. They're probably going to race it to some extent, if not like racing, like, you know, street racing, but, you know, just racing around on the road, driving very aggressively, probably drifting it a lot in the snow. That's a common thing I see a lot of Subarus doing, is drifting. What the fuck's this guy doing behind me? He's trying to get around me. So fucktard. But they, yeah, they're just common to be beat on. They're common to be heavily modified, and usually not really modified the right way. This guy really is a douche nozzle behind me. Pardon my language. But yeah, they're generally heavily modified, probably not in the best way. Because, I mean, think about it. How many people have you heard of who buy a WRX or an STI? And what do they usually do? They tune it, maybe get a downpipe. They might get a different intercooler and a bigger turbo. Not many times do they do anything with the engine until the engine already blows up on them. And then they go, oh, maybe I should actually modify my engine. And that is when they decide to actually upgrade the integrity of the engine, like forged pistons or whatnot. But usually people will just, you know, modify the car to get more power the easy way through tuning and a bigger turbo, rather than actually doing it the right way, which it can be done the right way as long as you're safe about it, but I don't think most people are very safe about it. So you end up getting a car that's pushing more power than it was designed to by a decent amount, and you get someone who's beating on it all the time. That's a recipe for disaster. So in my opinion, usually the used WRXs and STIs, I would avoid them unless you know the previous owner maintained it well, didn't beat on it, and did not heavily modify it, or if they did modify it, they did it the right way, not just slapped a bigger turbo on it and called it a day. Or I would just buy a brand new one. Now, if I could afford a brand new one, no problem, then okay, that's one thing. I'm sure it'll be reliable as long as I take care of it. And the point is, I would either buy a WRX or an STI new, or used from somebody I know and trust. I don't even mean like a car dealer, because even a dealer, the dealer doesn't know or care what the previous owner did to it. If the previous owner heavily modified it, beat the shit out of it, and traded it in, they could easily just put all the stock parts back on the thing and traded the thing in. The other thing about buying a used WRX that I noticed when I was looking for them is they're way overinflated in value. Like, I know they're good cars, and this is just my opinion, but when I was looking, I would see WRXs that were only like 2 to 3 years old, and 2 to 3 years old, 20 to 70,000 miles. Like, that whole mileage range didn't really make a huge difference in price, and they'd be going for maybe 2 or 3 grand less than a brand new one. Now, when you're talking about like a car that goes for like 26, 27,000, and then you're getting one that's 3 years old for 23, 24,000, what the hell's the point? You might as well just buy a brand new one that you know hasn't been beaten on, or, you know, anything like that. And that's not even like, even the older ones. You get like a older STI, that guy must be right up here, or right on our ass. Hard to tell which. Oh, there it goes. But yeah, you look at like the older WRXs and STIs, even if they're like 5 or 6 years old, they still go for like 15 to 20,000. Now that's just ridiculous to me. Why would I buy a 6-year-old car for 20,000 when I can buy a brand new one for 26,000? That just makes no fucking sense to me. I just really don't understand why anyone would pay that much for a used car. And usually they have over 100,000 miles at that point too, so it's like, what the hell? You've already taken half the life out of the car probably, and the price has only dropped by 25%. That just makes, even if it dropped by 30, 40%, that's still not really a good value in my mind. But apparently the market dictates the price. People are willing to pay that much for some reason if the value is that high. And that is a con of the WRXs, if you're buying them used, is the fact that they hold their value very well. But that could also be considered a pro too. If you buy a brand new one, you could expect to get a lot of your money back in a few years, assuming you take care of it and it's still in a mechanically sound condition when you decide to get rid of it. So I mean, I say that's a disadvantage, is the price or the value of a used one, but it's also a pro if you were to buy a newer one. I really have nothing against the Subarus. I do think they're good cars. They just have their little caveats, mainly with the general audience of people who own them. Because I mean, I've known plenty of people who have bought Subarus and had no issues with them, including WRXs. But I've also known plenty of people who have bought WRXs and had nothing but problems with them, and it seems to usually be the ones that are heavily modified tend to have a lot of issues, and the ones that have unknown previous ownership. So that's just what I would watch out for. Now, getting back to it, I would, oh fucking hell, I would buy another WRX at some point, potentially. I mean, I have no plan on doing it. I'm just saying I would if I had the money and I really had the desire to. I'd have no problem buying another WRX. I think they're great cars. And would I recommend one? Yes, I would, with the same caveats that I was just talking about. It would have to be either new or used from somebody that I knew took care of it and didn't beat the snot out of it and, you know, fucking jack it up the wrong way with a bigger turbo and a tune, and just trying to see how much power they could get out of the stock engine. But I would definitely buy one again and would recommend one, assuming you were to follow those advisements of mine. So yeah, that was basically it. Don't really have anything else to talk about. Just wanted to clear the air and make sure you guys know I'm not anti-Subaru or anti-WRX. Just because I had bad luck. I don't hold a grudge against those cars. What the fuck is going on here? They're not bad cars, and I still have nothing against them despite my bad experience, because I realize, hey, it's not the car's fault. The previous owner beat the crap out of it. And I can guarantee that due to the fact that when I looked at the Carfax, I could see it had the transmission replaced in the first 2 years of ownership, which that should have been a red flag to me. I don't know why I just brushed it off as being, oh, the transmission was replaced. They probably just dumped the clutch a couple times and then get a new transmission. That should have been a red flag to me not to buy that car. So it's my own fault, kind of, for seeing that and still deciding to buy it. But anyways, that's about it, guys. As always, have a good day.